The forest was silent. Too silent. Officer Daniel and his canine partner, Rex, were on a routine patrol when suddenly the German Shepherd froze. His ears shot up, his muscles stiffened, and then he lunged toward an ancient oak tree, barking like never before. At first, Daniel thought Thor had sensed an animal, but then he saw it, the massive, bulging lump on the tree's trunk. Something was trapped inside, something alive. Rex wouldn't stop barking, scratching, growling. Daniel raised his knife, sliced into the lump, and what spilled out made his blood run cold. Stay till the end, because this story will leave you speechless. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The forest was unusually quiet that morning. Too quiet. Sunlight filtered through the tall oak trees in thin, golden beams, casting moving shadows on the ground, as the breeze whispered through the leaves. Officer Daniel Reed walked steadily along the narrow dirt trail, his boots sinking softly into the damp earth. Beside him trotted Rex, his loyal German Shepherd canine partner, alert as always, ears perked, nose scanning every shift in the air. For most officers, a forest patrol was boring, routine work. But Daniel knew better. These woods had a reputation. Strange complaints came in every few months, echoes in the night, animals acting weird, hikers claiming to hear knocking sounds coming from deep among the trees. Most dismissed it as paranoia. But Daniel had worked long enough with Rex to know one thing for certain. When nature goes silent, something is wrong. "Easy, boy," Daniel murmured, gently patting Rex's back. The dog's tail swayed but never fully relaxed. He was focused, intent, taking in every scent the forest offered. Birds fluttered overhead but didn't sing. Squirrels darted across branches but vanished quickly as if avoiding something unseen. Even the wind seemed hesitant, moving cautiously between the trees. Daniel frowned. He'd walked this path 100 times, but today it felt different, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. Rex suddenly paused, ears twitching. Daniel noticed immediately. "What is it?" he whispered. The dog didn't answer, of course, but Daniel recognized Rex's posture, alert, listening, analyzing. The German Shepherd tilted his head slightly, nose lifting as if catching a scent drifting faintly through the air. Daniel scanned the area. Just trees, moss, fallen branches. Nothing threatening, nothing unusual. But Rex sensed something Daniel couldn't. They continued forward, deeper into the woods. Sunlight dimmed as the trees grew thicker, their branches weaving together like an old, tangled roof. Daniel's footsteps slowed. Rex's body stiffened. The silence became heavier, almost pressing against Daniel's ears. "Still nothing," he muttered, checking the small device clipped to his shoulder. The radio signal was weak. Typical forest interference. Rex stopped again, this time more abruptly. His head jerked left. His eyes locked onto something ahead, something Daniel couldn't yet see. A soft growl vibrated in Rex's throat, low and warning. Daniel frowned, tightening his grip on the leash. "Rex, talk to me." But the dog wasn't listening anymore. His breathing changed, his muscles tensed. Something was out there, something the forest didn't want to reveal. Daniel took one slow step forward, heart beating a little faster. That's when Rex pulled hard, leading him toward the place where everything would change. Rex's sudden pull nearly yanked the leash out of Daniel's hand. The German Shepherd lowered his body, tail stiff, nose pressed close to the ground as he inhaled sharply. Once, twice, then again, deeper this time. His movements were quick, urgent, nothing like his usual controlled tracking behavior. Daniel's pulse quickened. "What did you find, boy?" he whispered. Rex didn't look back. He slowly lifted his head, nostrils flaring as he caught something in the air. Something Daniel couldn't smell, couldn't see, but something powerful enough to make the dog tense like a coiled spring. His ears rotated forward, locking onto a fixed point deeper between the towering oak trees. The forest, already quiet, seemed to fall into an even deeper silence. No rustling leaves, no chirping birds. The wind had stopped entirely, as if it, too, sensed what Rex did. Daniel's instincts tingled. Rex had done this before, right before they located a lost child hidden under brush, right before they uncovered an illegal trap site in the mountains, and once, right before they found a wounded hiker who had collapsed behind a ravine tree. Rex never reacted without purpose, but today, his behavior was different, more intense, more urgent. Rex took a step forward, then another, moving slowly, cautiously, his paws barely making a sound on the forest floor. Daniel followed close, hand on his holster out of habit, eyes narrowing as he scanned between the trees for any sign of movement. Branches creaked overhead. A strange smell drifted toward them. Damp, earthy but sharper than usual, almost metallic. Daniel wrinkled his nose. The scent wasn't familiar, and if he could smell it, Rex must have sensed it long before. Rex suddenly let out a deep bark. One loud, abrupt, commanding bark that echoed across the woods. Daniel froze. Rex never barked like that unless he had identified something unusual or dangerous. "Show me," Daniel murmured. Rex stepped ahead and stopped near a massive old oak tree. Its trunk was thick, ancient, rough with decades of scars. At first glance, it looked like any other forest giant, but Rex wasn't looking at the branches or the roots. He was staring at the middle of the trunk, at something Daniel hadn't noticed before. The dog growled. Again, louder, warning Daniel that whatever he sensed was no ordinary forest disturbance. Daniel squinted, stepping closer. The shape on the tree was odd. A large, swollen mass bulged from its bark, darkened and wet around the edges. Resin or sap dripped slowly down its surface. Rex barked again, teeth bared. Something was wrong with that tree. Very, very wrong. Daniel stepped closer, boots sinking into the softened earth as he tilted his head to get a better look. The oak tree towered over him, thick, ancient, scarred by time. But it wasn't the age of the tree that made his stomach tighten. It was the lump. Right in the center of the trunk, a massive, rounded swelling jutted outward, almost like the tree had grown a giant blister. The surface pulsed faintly beneath the sunlight, its bark stretched unnaturally tight. Thick, dark resin oozed from the cracks, dripping slowly down like black tears. "What on earth?" Daniel muttered. Rex barked sharply, stepping between Daniel and the tree, hackles raised. He placed both paws against the trunk, claws digging into the bark as he snarled at the swollen mass. His entire body trembled, not with fear, but with fierce determination. Daniel had seen trees with fungus, rot, animal nests, but nothing like this. Nothing that made a trained K9 act like a threat was hiding inside. He knelt, running his fingers lightly across the bark. It felt wrong, too warm, too smooth in certain places, almost as if the wood beneath was shifting, alive. He jerked his hand back instinctively. Rex growled, low and steady. "Easy, boy," Daniel whispered, though his voice lacked confidence. "It's just a tree." But the words felt hollow, even to him. Sunlight flickered as a cloud passed overhead, casting the lump in shadow. For a moment, the dark streaks running down the bark looked like veins. Daniel blinked, stepping back. The smell drifting from the trunk hit him next, sharp, damp, metallic, mixed with the earthy scent of decay. It wasn't normal sap. Something was inside that tree. Rex moved to the other side of the trunk, nose pressed against the wood. He let out a sharp whine, then barked again, more aggressively. His behavior wasn't random. He was tracking something, searching, pinpointing. Daniel circled around with him, hand instinctively resting on his knife. The forest seemed to lean in, every sound muted. Even the wind refused to pass through the clearing. Then he saw it, a thin slit near the base of the lump, like the bark had been pried open once before and sealed again. Daniel crouched, examining it closely. The edges were jagged but not natural, not chewed by animals, not cracked by age. They were cut. His breath caught. Someone, or something, had opened this tree before, and then closed it. Rex barked again, louder, teeth bared at the swelling mass. Daniel swallowed hard. Whatever was inside that tree, it wasn't supposed to be found. Rex's barking grew sharper, louder, echoing through the dense forest like an alarm no one could ignore. His teeth flashed with every snarl, his body rigid as he positioned himself between Daniel and the swollen lump on the oak tree. The dog's instincts, those same instincts that had saved lives before, were screaming a warning. Daniel tightened his grip on the leash, but Rex pulled forward with unexpected force, straining toward the tree like he was ready to attack it. "Rex, easy," Daniel commanded, but even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Dogs didn't behave like this over nothing. Something inside that tree was provoking Rex in a way Daniel had never seen. The German shepherd pressed his nose against the trunk again, sniffing frantically. Then, without hesitation, he began clawing at the bark. Hard. Chips of wood flew as his paws scraped furiously, leaving deep gouges in the surface. "Whoa! Whoa! Stop!" Daniel tried pulling him back, but Rex resisted, barking with raw intensity. His growls vibrated through the air, deeper than before, tinged with desperation. This wasn't the bark of a dog confronting a wild animal. This was the bark of a dog confronting a threat. Daniel stepped closer to the lump, forcing himself to study its strange shape more carefully. The bulge wasn't symmetrical. It had uneven ridges, strange patterns beneath the bark, and a faint trembling that made Daniel's breath hitch. Was it wind? No. The forest was still. Rex's growl suddenly changed. It deepened, rumbling from his chest as he lunged again, paws slamming against the lump. The oak creaked under the impact. "Rex, back!" Daniel shouted, but Rex wasn't listening. His ears were pinned flat, his tail stiff, his body vibrating with adrenaline. He barked furiously into the swollen mass as if warning whatever was inside that he wasn't afraid. Daniel's heart pounded. He reached out, touching the surface again, quickly pulling his hand back. The lump felt like it was pulsing, a slow, faint movement. He stared in disbelief. Trees didn't move, and yet. Rex whipped his head toward Daniel, eyes wide, expression urgent, almost pleading. He barked again, a command this time, as if telling him, "Do something. Now." Daniel backed up a step. A part of him wanted to return to the trail, call for backup, and wait. But another part, the part that trusted Rex with his life, knew that wasn't an option. Rex wasn't panicking. He was protecting Daniel from whatever was sealed inside that tree, whatever should never have been disturbed. Daniel's heartbeat thudded in his ears as Rex growled at the pulsating lump on the tree. This was no ordinary forest disturbance. He needed backup. Now. He reached for the radio clipped to his vest. "Dispatch, this is Officer Daniel Reed. I'm in Sector 12 of Pine Hollow Forest. I've got a suspicious tree deformity and abnormal canine behavior. Requesting backup and environmental assessment team." Static. He frowned and pressed the button harder. "Dispatch, do you copy? Repeat. Backup requested." More static. A faint crackle, then nothing. Daniel exhaled sharply. The forest was dense, signals were weak, but he'd never had total silence before. He turned in a slow circle, lifting the radio higher. "Come on, don't do this today." Rex barked violently at the tree again as if reminding him they didn't have time to wait. All right, Daniel muttered. He tried switching channels. "Unit 4, do you read?" Officer Lopez, are you nearby? Anyone? Does anyone copy? Every channel answered with the same chilling quiet. He lowered the radio, jaw tightening. We're on our own. Rex didn't seem surprised. The dog paced circles around the lump, nose glued to the ground, barking between growls. His agitation was rising, not fading. Daniel could see it in his movements. Rex sensed danger getting closer, not farther. The forest pressed in around them, thick with tension. Even the sunlight seemed to dim as clouds crept across the sky, casting long shadows that made the old oak look even more twisted, even more unnatural. Daniel tried again. Dispatch, if you hear this, send units to my GPS coordinates. Possible entrapment or environmental hazard. K9 showing signs of distress. Nothing. Rex suddenly stiffened. His body froze mid-step, head snapping toward the tree like a predator ready to strike. Daniel swallowed hard. You're scaring me, boy, he whispered, though he kept his voice steady. He stepped away from the tree, looking around. The trail they had walked felt miles behind them. The silence. Oppressive. Unnatural. He could almost feel unseen eyes watching from between the oaks. A chill ran through him. Something about the forest felt wrong. Rex barked again, loud, commanding, then shoved his nose against Daniel's leg before turning back to the tree, as if urging him. Look again. Daniel gripped his knife, instinct taking over. If backup wasn't coming, then whatever was happening here, he had to face it alone. He approached the swollen lump once more, breath steadying, knife trembling in his hand. Behind him, Rex lowered into a defensive stance. No radio signal, no backup, no way out. Just an officer, a K9, and the secret sealed inside an ancient tree. Daniel stood before the swollen lump, knife in hand, heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Rex stayed glued to his side, his growl constant, vibrating low like a warning siren aimed at the tree. The air felt heavier now, thick, unmoving, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Daniel leaned closer, swallowing hard. The surface of the lump glistened with dark resin, thick and sticky, oozing slowly from the cracks. The smell hit him next, sharp, metallic, almost like blood mixed with damp wood. He wrinkled his nose. All right. Let's see what you're hiding, he whispered. He pressed the knife into the bark. The blade sank disturbingly easily. A wet, tearing sound crackled through the clearing as the bark peeled apart like soft skin. Thick, black fluid dripped down the blade, trailing across Daniel's fingers. It wasn't sap. Sap didn't smell like this. Sap didn't move like this. Rex barked violently, jumping forward as if trying to stop him. Daniel stepped back, wiping his hand against his vest in disgust. What the hell? The lump shivered. Daniel froze. Trees didn't shiver. A tremor ran across the bulge, subtle but unmistakable. The dark liquid trickled faster now, dripping onto the ground in thick droplets. The sound reminded him of something dripping in a cave. Heavy, slow, echoing with unnatural rhythm. Rex snarled, pressing his head against Daniel's leg as if urging him to retreat. But Daniel forced himself forward again. He had to know what was inside. Easy, boy, he murmured, more to himself than to Rex. He plunged the knife deeper, sliding it along the bark. More black fluid gushed out, warm enough to steam faintly in the cool forest air. Daniel gagged at the smell, stepping aside as it pooled at his boots. The tree groaned, not creaked, not cracked, groaned, like something inside was pushing back. Daniel spun, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Rex's bark exploded into the silence, fierce, urgent, full of warning. He lunged at the tree, paws slamming against the bulging mass, claws digging into the softened bark. The lump throbbed under his paws. Daniel tightened his grip on the knife. There was no turning back now. Whatever was inside was reacting to the cut, moving, struggling, alive. Another groan ripped through the trunk, louder this time, deeper, resonating through Daniel's bones. He stumbled backward, breath quickening. "Rex, step back," he whispered. But Rex didn't move. He stood guard, snarling at the swelling tree, as if daring whatever was inside to show itself. Rex's behavior shifted from aggression to something Daniel had almost never seen in him. Panic. Real, visceral panic. His barks changed tone, sharper and higher, echoing through the trees like a desperate alarm. He circled the swelling lump on the trunk, nose pressed close, then jerked back with a frightened whine. Daniel had seen Rex face down armed suspects, wild animals, even explosive threats with unwavering calm. But now, the dog's tail was stiff, his body trembling, ears pinned tightly against his head. Something inside that tree terrified him. The officer stepped closer again, heart racing. "Rex, talk to me. What are you sensing?" The dog didn't look at him. Instead, he stared directly at the throbbing mass as if the thing inside was watching him back. A soft sound reached Daniel's ears, a faint tapping, rhythmic and strange, coming from inside the lump. He held his breath. Tap, tap, tap. Slow at first, then faster, like tiny fists hitting the inside of a wooden coffin. Rex let out a sharp bark and lunged again, claws tearing bark from the surface, determined to reach whatever was trapped or hiding beneath. "Rex, no!" Daniel pulled him back, but Rex refused to retreat. His desperation grew with every passing second. The lump suddenly bulged outward like something inside had pressed hard against the inner walls. Daniel stumbled backward, adrenaline surging through him. The pulsation was stronger now, the movement unmistakable. Something was pushing, struggling, trying to break free. Rex barked furiously, then shifted into a low, whimpering growl. His gaze flicked to Daniel with a plea so clear that words weren't needed. "Don't let it out." Daniel's breath hitched. "Is it alive? Is there someone inside?" he murmured, mind racing. The idea sounded insane, but nothing about this was normal. The tapping intensified, turning into frantic thuds. The entire lump shook violently for a brief moment before going still. Dead still. Rex whined and backed up 2 steps, tail tucked slightly but eyes locked on the tree. He wasn't running. He was preparing, ready for whatever would happen next. Daniel scanned the forest out of instinct, searching for anything else. Tracks, movement, danger lurking. Nothing. Only silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then another sound, a faint crack. The surface of the lump split open just a little, a thin line of dark fluid dripping out. It wasn't sap anymore. It looked thicker, darker, like it had come from flesh, not wood. Rex barked again, his body coiled with fear and fury. Daniel tightened his grip on his knife. Something inside that tree was alive, and it was trying to get out. Daniel's hands trembled as he stepped closer to the trembling lump. The thin crack that had formed along the surface seeped more dark liquid, dripping in slow, heavy beads that splattered on the forest floor. Rex growled low, inching himself between Daniel and the tree again, as if his own body could shield his partner from whatever was trying to break free. But Daniel knew there was no stopping this now. He tightened his grip on the knife, inhaled deeply, and whispered, "Stay close, boy." Rex didn't need the command. He was glued to Daniel's side, muscles tight, ready to lunge at any moment. With slow, steady pressure, Daniel slid the blade into the crack and pulled downward. A sickening tear echoed through the clearing as the bark peeled like thick skin. More of the dark, warm fluid poured out, running over the blade and dripping onto Daniel's wrist. He grimaced but didn't stop. The lump trembled violently beneath his touch. Then it sagged inward. "What the—" Daniel stepped back as the outer layer of bark collapsed, revealing a dark hollow inside the tree. Not just a hollow, a chamber, a space carved deliberately, unnaturally, like someone had scooped out the inside of the trunk. Rex pressed his head forward, sniffing rapidly. His breaths were sharp, distressed. He barked once, short and urgent, for Daniel to look deeper. Daniel raised his flashlight and aimed the beam into the newly opened cavity. What he saw made his stomach twist. Inside the hollow, bundles of hardened resin clung to the walls like webs, forming a cocoon-like chamber. The inner wood was smooth, almost polished, not by nature, but by something, or someone, who had worked at it. The shape of the cavity was too symmetrical, too deliberate. "Someone did this," Daniel whispered. "This isn't natural." Rex growled in agreement, lowering his stance, ready to strike at whatever moved. Daniel leaned in further, shining the beam deeper. The resin coating glistened, thick and dark, but something beneath it shimmered. Metal. Fabric. A reflection of something trapped inside. He squinted. "What is that?" Suddenly, a faint movement rippled across the inner wall. Daniel jerked back. "No, no, no. That wasn't my imagination." Rex barked sharply, the fur along his spine standing up. The chamber trembled again. Slowly, subtly, like something inside it was breathing. Daniel tightened his grip on the flashlight, his voice barely a whisper. "There's something alive in there." The hollow inside the tree pulsed again. Slow, rhythmic, unmistakable. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Rex stiffened, a sharp growl rumbling through his chest as he stepped closer to the opening, nose twitching rapidly. Something moved inside the chamber. Not the tree, not the bark. Something within the carved-out cavity. Daniel steadied his flashlight and leaned in, just enough to see deeper into the darkness. The beam cut across the resin-coated interior until it landed on a shape curled tightly in the center. At first, Daniel couldn't understand what he was seeing. It looked round, smooth, covered in hardened sap like a shell. For a moment he thought it was some kind of oversized wasp nest, sealed in amber. But then it shifted. A subtle shake. A soft, trembling movement. A faint, muffled sound. Like a whimper. Rex barked explosively, the sound echoing off the trees. He lunged forward, trying to shove his head into the opening, desperate to reach the source of the sound. "Rex! Back!" Daniel grabbed his harness and pulled him away, but Rex fought against him with frantic strength. The dog wasn't trying to attack. He was trying to save whatever was inside. Daniel's pulse raced. "There's someone in there," he whispered, horrified. The shape wasn't a nest. It wasn't an animal burrow. It was a cocoon. A human-sized cocoon. Sealed, wrapped, buried inside the tree. Daniel carefully reached into the cavity, his fingers brushing against the hardened sap. It was warm, too warm, radiating heat like a living body. He pressed lightly, and the shell gave a little, softening under the pressure. Inside, something responded, a weak, trembling thump. Another whimper. "Oh my God," Daniel breathed. "Someone's trapped." The forest seemed to lean closer, as if the trees themselves were listening. Daniel pressed his ear near the cavity. At first he heard nothing but his own heartbeat pounding in his skull. Then, faint, fragile, another sound emerged. Breathing. Shallow. Labored. Human breathing. Rex let out a pained whine and nudged Daniel's arm, urging him to hurry. Daniel pulled back and gripped the knife again. "Hang on," he said to whoever was inside, voice shaking. "I'm getting you out." But the moment he slid the blade toward the resin shell, the entire cocoon jerked violently. Daniel stumbled backward. Rex barked furiously, teeth bared. Something alive was inside that tree, and it was trying to respond. The cocoon jerked again, harder this time, knocking loose flakes of resin that scattered across Daniel's boots. Rex lunged forward instinctively, barking with ferocity, his body trembling with urgency. Daniel caught him by the harness just in time. "Easy, boy, easy," he gasped, but Rex wouldn't calm down. He barked with the intensity of a dog who knew the truth long before humans did. Daniel steadied himself and aimed the flashlight back into the cavity. As the beam swept across the hollow chamber, it illuminated something he hadn't seen earlier. Tiny carvings etched into the inner walls of the tree. Not natural grooves, not animal scratches. Symbols, numbers, initials. His breath hitched. Someone had used this tree deliberately. He leaned closer, brushing his fingers over one set of markings. Jr. 2009. Another set read, Help. Carved deep, desperate. The grooves jagged as though made with shaking hands. A chill shot down his spine. This wasn't an accident, he whispered. Someone was held here. Rex let out a sharp bark, startling him. The dog scraped at the ground and then at the tree again, signaling urgency Daniel couldn't ignore. He reached deeper with the flashlight. The cocoon's outer shell had begun to crack where he'd touched it earlier. Behind the resin, he saw fabric. Stained, faded, but unmistakably human clothing. Beneath that, skin. Daniel jerked his hand back as if burned. This is a crime scene, he breathed. Someone sealed a person inside this tree. The realization struck him like a physical blow. This wasn't nature. This was a prison. A wooden coffin carved with intent. Rex whined, pacing in frantic circles. He stopped suddenly at a patch of leaves near the base of the tree, digging furiously with his paws. Daniel rushed to him and pushed aside the soil. Something glinted beneath the dirt. A rusted chain. Connected to it, a small metal tag. Daniel pulled it free, brushing away the soil. It was a missing person's ID tag, a name etched across it, Lena Hart. Daniel's stomach dropped. Lena Hart, reported missing 13 years ago. The case had gone cold. No leads, no closure, no trace of her ever found. Until now. He stared at the cocoon in horror. No, this can't be her. After all these years, she couldn't possibly be alive. But the cocoon moved again. A weak, trembling shudder. Rex barked at Daniel with renewed urgency, his message unmistakable. She is alive, and she's running out of time. Rex didn't stay still for long. As soon as Daniel pocketed the rusted ID tag, the dog jerked his head sharply toward the right side of the clearing, nose lifted high, sniffing fast and frantic. His ears twitched, once, twice, and then he bolted toward a dense patch of brush, dragging Daniel with sudden force. "Rex, slow down!" Daniel stumbled but followed, trusting the dog blindly. Rex skidded to a stop at a cluster of fallen branches. He lowered his head, sniffing deep into the tangled mess. Then he barked once, sharp, decisive, and began digging. Dirt flew in frantic bursts as his paws tore through the soil. Daniel knelt beside him. What is it now? What else is here? Within seconds, Rex unearthed something small and metallic. Daniel brushed the dirt away, heart pounding. A bracelet, bent, weathered, but unmistakably feminine, and engraved with a name, Lena. Daniel stared at it, shaken. This belonged to her. Rex wasn't done. He darted a few feet away to an overturned log and barked again. Daniel followed, shining his flashlight beneath it. A torn piece of fabric lay wedged between the roots, dark blue, embroidered with tiny flowers. It matched the clothing he glimpsed inside the cocoon. Rex whined, pawing at the fabric gently as if recognizing the scent of a suffering soul. Daniel swallowed hard. The woods weren't just hiding a crime. They were full of clues scattered like a silent trail of pain. "What happened to you out here?" Daniel whispered, more to the forest than to Rex. The dog suddenly stiffened again, this time pointing his nose toward a line of trees that grew denser, darker. His body lowered, tail straight, every muscle tight. Daniel recognized that stance. Rex was tracking something alive, something dangerous, a predator, or a person. "Someone else was here," Daniel muttered. "Someone who put her in that tree." Rex barked once in confirmation. Daniel aimed his flashlight into the dense trees. A faint path, barely visible, snaked between the trunks. Fresh footprints marked the soil, almost hidden by fallen leaves. Not old footprints, recent ones. His stomach twisted. The person who carved the chamber. The person who sealed Lena inside. The person who left symbols and initials. They might still be here. Rex growled, the fur on his spine rising again. He wanted to follow the trail, to hunt the one responsible. But Daniel shook his head. Not yet, boy. First we save her, then we catch him. Rex hesitated, torn between the trail and the tree. But after a moment he turned back to the cocoon, issuing another urgent bark. Save her now. Time is almost gone. Daniel hurried, back to the cocoon. Rex at his side, both of them feeling the crushing weight of time slipping away. The forest seemed darker now, shadows stretching long across the ground as if the trees themselves knew a secret was about to be exposed. The cocoon inside the hollow trembled weakly, fading, struggling. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow. Hang on, Lena. We're here now. He could barely believe it. A missing woman, buried alive for over a decade, still breathing. How was it even possible? He leaned deeper into the hollow, flashlight angled across the resin-coated chamber. The carvings on the inner walls stood out sharply now that more bark had been removed. Names, initials, numbers, and one phrase carved deeper than the rest, repeated over and over. The Keeper is watching. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. Who the hell is the Keeper? Rex growled softly, as if he recognized the danger in the words. Daniel scanned the chamber again. And that's when he noticed the pattern. Each carving wasn't random. They formed a timeline, dates spanning years. Some crossed out, some left untouched, all clustered around the hollow. Then he found the earliest one. 2009, taken. His breath hitched. Next to it, another line. 2009, sealed. And below that, 2010, breathing. Daniel's stomach knotted. He came back. He checked on her. His voice trembled with horror. Every year, Rex whined, nudging Daniel's elbow, urging him to hurry. Daniel studied the cocoon again. Now that more bark was peeled away, he could see its structure. Layers upon layers of resin, hardened like amber. Not naturally formed, applied, sculpted, built around a living person. The truth slammed into him. Someone had used the tree as a living prison, a chamber of torture, a place to store a victim like a possession. That's why the carvings call him the Keeper, Daniel whispered. He didn't kill her. He kept her. Rex let out a low growl, turning suddenly toward the deeper woods. His stance rigid, alert. Daniel followed his gaze. The dense cluster of trees swayed slightly, though the wind hadn't picked up. A faint crack echoed in the distance. Then another, almost like footsteps crunching through branches. The Keeper. He wasn't long gone. He was close, very close. Rex barked fiercely, warning whoever was watching that the forest's silence was broken, that Lena was no longer hidden. Daniel gripped his knife and stepped closer to the cocoon. Hold on, Lena, he whispered. We're not letting him take you again. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears as he crouched before the trembling cocoon. The Keeper was somewhere in the forest, close enough for Rex to sense, but Lena didn't have minutes to spare. Her breathing had become shallow, faint, each rise of the cocoon weaker than the last. If he hesitated now, she would die inside the prison that had held her for 13 long years. Stay with me, Lena, Daniel whispered, forcing his voice steady. I'm getting you out. Rex barked sharply, spinning toward the deeper woods again, hackles raised. He wanted to chase the Keeper, but Daniel shook his head firmly. Not yet, Rex. First we save her. The dog whined but obeyed, planting himself beside Daniel like a living shield, eyes trained on the shadowy tree line. Daniel slipped his knife beneath another section of resin. The blade met resistance. Thick, rubbery layers built over time, but he pushed harder. A crack tore through the hardened shell, followed by a gush of dark, sticky fluid. The cocoon sagged under its own weight. He worked fast, slicing, peeling, ripping away the layers that had kept her sealed from the world. Sweat dripped down his temples. His hands shook, coated in resin, but he didn't stop. Every breath Lena took was a countdown. A faint whimper escaped from inside. Daniel froze. "Lena, can you hear me?" A soft tap came from within. Weak, but real. He redoubled his efforts, cutting deeper, faster. More resin cracked away, revealing a thin layer of fabric, her shirt still clinging to her frail body. Daniel swallowed hard. "You're right here. I've got you." A sudden crack echoed through the forest, loud, sharp. Rex spun, barking violently. Someone, or something, was moving through the trees. The keeper was getting closer. Daniel's heart raced, but he didn't stop working. "Rex, watch my back," he muttered. The dog bared his teeth, snarling into the shadows. Daniel tore away the final layer and finally saw her face. Pale, thin, lips trembling, eyes fluttering open just a sliver. "Lena," Daniel breathed. "You're alive." She blinked slowly, as if struggling against a lifetime of darkness. Her cracked lips parted. A faint whisper escaped, barely audible. "Help." Daniel's throat tightened. "You're safe now, I promise." He slid his arms into the hollow gently, lifting her free. Her body was weightless, fragile, like she hadn't stood in years. As he pulled her from the trunk, the resin cracked and fell away around them like shattered amber. Rex barked again, urgent, warning. Daniel turned, Lena in his arms. Between the trees, a silhouette stood watching. The keeper had returned. Daniel's breath caught as the silhouette stepped out from behind the trees. Slowly, deliberately, as though he had been waiting for this moment. A tall figure draped in a dark, tattered coat, face shadowed beneath a hood. He moved with unsettling calm, hands hanging loosely at his sides as if he wasn't approaching a police officer, but returning to something he believed was his property. Rex exploded into a deep, vicious bark, teeth bared, body lunging forward with every muscle tight. The keeper did not flinch. Daniel tightened his hold on Lena, shifting her fragile weight in his arms. "Stay back," he shouted. "This woman is alive. She's leaving. With me." The keeper tilted his head slowly, too slowly, studying Daniel the same way one might study an animal that had wandered into a trap. Then he whispered, voice raspy and cracked from disuse. "She was mine to keep." Rex snarled, stepping forward like a soldier ready to die before letting Daniel be harmed. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He took a defensive stance, shielding Lena with his body. "You're not taking her. It's over." The keeper lifted his hand. Rex sprang. The dog lunged with trained precision, hitting the man square in the chest and knocking him back into the dirt. A guttural growl tore from Rex's throat as he kept the keeper pinned. The man writhed beneath him, clawing at Rex's fur, trying to break free. But Rex didn't yield, not even for a second. "Good boy, hold him," Daniel shouted. The keeper shrieked, a wild, inhuman sound that echoed through the forest. He swung his arm, trying to strike Rex, but the dog dodged, jaws snapping, dangerously close to the man's wrist. "You don't understand," the keeper screamed, voice cracking. "She needed to stay there. The forest." "Shut up," Daniel snapped. "You kept her prisoner for 13 years. You're done." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, backup finally arriving after Daniel's repeated calls. The sound grew louder, crashing through the silence of the woods, blue lights flickering through the trees. Rex didn't release the keeper until Daniel shouted the command. "Rex, off!" The dog obeyed instantly, stepping back but remaining in a guarded stance, lips curled, ready to leap again if needed. Officers rushed in, weapons drawn. Within seconds, the keeper was handcuffed, screaming nonsense about the forest watching, his voice breaking into incoherent murmurs as they dragged him away. Daniel exhaled shakily, looking down at Rex. The German shepherd sat beside him, chest rising with heavy breaths, eyes softening as he looked up at Daniel and then at Lena. "You saved her," Daniel whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You saved both of us." Rex pressed his head gently against Daniel's arm, and for the first time in 13 years, Lena Hart was no longer alone. The forest that once felt suffocating and silent now buzzed with life. Sirens echoing in the distance, radios crackling, officers speaking urgently as they secured the crime scene. But for Daniel, the world had narrowed to a single fragile life in his arms, and the loyal K-9 who had refused to give up on her. Lena Hart. After 13 years inside a wooden tomb, she lay wrapped in a thermal blanket, oxygen mask pressed gently to her face. Paramedics hovered over her, speaking in soft tones, checking her pulse, her temperature, her breathing. Every time her eyelids fluttered, Daniel felt a surge of hope. "You're safe now," he whispered, brushing a stray leaf from her hair. "We've got you." Rex settled next to the stretcher, his body finally relaxing, though his eyes never left Lena. He seemed to understand the significance of this moment, that the woman he had fought for, barked for, sensed in the darkness, was alive because of him. A paramedic approached Daniel. "She's weak, malnourished, dehydrated, but she's fighting. Honestly, it's a miracle she held on all these years." Daniel exhaled, emotion tightening his throat. He looked at Rex. "I know exactly who to thank for that." Rex wagged his tail once, slow and gentle, as if humbly accepting the praise. The keeper, now in the custody of several officers, was being loaded into a patrol car. He ranted incoherently about the forest, about keeping what was his, about voices that told him to preserve life in wood. His words were fragments of madness, twisted by years of isolation and obsession. But none of it mattered anymore. Justice had finally come. Lena was leaving the forest alive. As paramedics prepared to transport her, Lena's hand lifted weakly. She reached toward Daniel with trembling fingers. He leaned closer. Her voice was barely a whisper behind the mask. "Thank you." Daniel smiled softly. "Don't thank me," he said, stepping aside so she could see Rex. "Thank him." Rex moved closer, nuzzling her hand with surprising gentleness. A small tear rolled down her cheek, her first expression of emotion after years of silence. The ambulance doors closed and the vehicle drove off, flashing lights cutting through the forest. Daniel knelt beside Rex, wrapping an arm around the dog's neck. "You're a hero," he murmured. "Never doubt that." Rex pressed his head into Daniel's chest as if saying, "I know." And just like that, the forest finally breathed again. This story teaches us that courage, instinct, and compassion can save lives in the most unexpected moments. Rex, the police dog, reminds us that true heroes come in many forms, and their actions can change the course of someone's destiny. It also shows the importance of never ignoring signs of danger and always trusting trained instincts, whether human or animal. Officer Daniel's determination highlights the value of responsibility, quick thinking, and acting, even when no help is available. Most importantly, the story teaches us to protect the vulnerable, seek justice, and never give up hope, no matter how dark the circumstances seem. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments which moment shocked you the most, and stay tuned. More unbelievable true stories and heroic K-9 rescues are coming soon.